What's up, everybody? Got another group review. Got Perry, Eric with me. This one is for a film that we actually saw a few days ago. We didn't just get out of, we didn't just get out of the theater watching it.
Right.
But we all saw it. And it's Terry Gilliams' The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. This is a film that I actually heard about for years, wanting to see. Terry Gilliam is one of my favorite directors. I absolutely loved the Monty Python films. They're definitely some of my favorite comedies. Brazil is one of my favorite films ever made, and I honestly think it's one of the best films ever made. It's a brilliant social satire. And yeah, so The Man Who Killed Don Quixote stars Adam Driver. And this film was actually a film that Terry Gilliam's been trying to make for, I think, almost 30 years now. Through a lot of just disaster shit type happening to this film in terms of production, pre-production. It hasn't been able to get made. Apparently this film was going to star Johnny Depp at one point, and his entire set got washed away in a giant flood. So it got massively postponed for a long time, and now finally it's here. And for a one-night Fathom event.
Just one night.
One night.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of tragic that he spent so much time trying to make this film and get it done, and it was only out for one night thing. And kind of tragic, but whatever. I'm pretty sure he wanted just to make this film because it's his own passion project. He just wanted to make it just to make it at the end of the day. He's already made Brazil. He's already made a fucking masterpiece. He's fine. But so with The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, I gotta say, at least for me, I thoroughly enjoyed this film.
Me too. I thought it was really funny.
I thought that overall it was really unique. It's a really unique film, which is one thing that I really like about Terry Gilliam, is that he's able to create these really, like, odd and, like, I guess non-conventional world that you're not used to seeing. Like, he really loves crafting these kind of surreal worlds in his films. And The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, I feel like, gives you that. It really gives you that kind of surreal feeling that, like, it's familiar, but at the same time you feel like you're not familiar with it. Like it's like you're on Earth, but you're not on Earth.
Right.
And that's one thing that I felt that vibe a lot with this film. And that's one thing that I really enjoyed out of it. I also really just enjoyed overall the acting was really good. Jonathan Pryce, he was fantastic as Don Quixote. Adam Driver, I really just liked his character overall. That being said, even though I really did enjoy this film, there are some things that I didn't like, things that I thought could have been done better, and maybe a lot of that just has to do with a lot of production issues, maybe. But there are some aspects of this film that I don't think are that great. And but overall, I really enjoyed it, and the more that I think about it, the more that I do enjoy it. But yeah, so I guess that being said, I'll hand it over to this guy right here.
Once more, a hate corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perry feels very differently.
Spoiler.
So this will probably get into a little debate here, but I'll go ahead and give him the floor, man. Go ahead.
Well, the reason why we decided to do this review is how divided we are on this film. I will say that right off the bat, because y'all are probably wondering, why are y'all doing a review for a one-night Fathom event? Yeah. I hate this film. I think it is terrible. I think it lacks a lot of the cleverness I've seen in previous Terry Gilliam films, including, like you said, Brazil and the Monty Python movie. I found it extremely repetitive, and my God, was it too long. This movie was 2 hours and 15 minutes. I feel like, as paper thin as the story was, it could have been cut down to 1 hour and 40. There was majority of the film I was extremely bored. Like, me and Eric, we were sitting in the theater. I was like, there was still popcorn in the large popcorn we bought. It's like, oh, there's nothing but crumbs in here. Let me go get a refill, just to walk out of the theater, because my patience was really running out with this film.
So what?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Eric.
It's a little thing. During the film, like, Perry left a couple, like a handful of times, and I was like, oh man, he's gonna miss the movie. Isn't he enjoying it? And then, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why he wanted to go fucking get more popcorn.
I actually watched this separately with my girlfriend. I didn't go watch it with them.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there to experience that. But yeah, yeah. So Perry, like, you don't. So you say that you didn't think it was that clever. You thought the story was paper thin. You thought that you felt really bored throughout it. What exactly was wrong with it exactly?
Well,
like, in terms of the story, or right?
I understood that Adam Driver's, like, his character was basically a person who's stuck in the past, who's living way too much in the past, and that's his problem as a person. But the problem with the film, and this is why I say it's repetitive, they repeat jokes so many different times. Like when they mistake a windmill for a giant monster and they try to attack it. That happens 5 or 6 times in the film. It wasn't really that funny the first time. It's definitely not funny the other 4 times I have to see it.
Well, I guess going back to what you said about you said something about Driver and his character, and how, like, his character is all about getting stuck, like how he's stuck in the past.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like that was his main issue. I felt like his issue is just, first of all, he's not a very creative dude, apparently.
Oh,
because
no.
he's, first of all, he has, even when he made the first Passion Project, he has horrible writer's block, and he uses the locals or whatever to bring his film to life, which is fine. But I think that Adam Driver's issue is just the fact that he's just overall just not a very good person. He's very stuck up. He's very selfish, and everything is about him all the time. He's always concerned about him. And you know, and like you said about the windmill joke, I only remember it happening twice.
It happened like 3, maybe 4 times. I know it happens 3 times.
I think maybe 3 times, but the thing is, like, to me, like, I don't think it was really meant to be all that funny. I think it was just to be a parallel for the character, because, you know, I'm not gonna spoil it too much here. We'll probably get into some spoilers later, but basically that kind of, the whole, like, character, you know, mistaking a windmill for a monster, that kind of comes back later, like in the end, like at the end of the film, for a different character. And I think that was there to kind of, you know, draw a similar, like, parallel between characters. Because for me, like, I can definitely understand somebody not loving this film, though. That's why, like, when you know, Perry, when I got the sense that Perry didn't like it, I was like, okay, I can understand that. Because as I was watching it, I was thinking, yeah, I can see someone watching this movie being bored by it. Because I'll have to say, there are, like, the second act, at least, I think it's the second act, felt a little aimless at times, and it felt kind of messy, and I was kind of really wanting the film to get to something that was more central, something a little bit more focused, that isn't just Adam Driver going through these different things, like one after the other, that don't seem to be too connected. But I think the film comes in full circle pretty well, and pays off really well, in my opinion. Yeah, do you want to say anything?
I found some of the performances just, like, way too hammy and unbelievable. Mainly the villain, who was, like, keeping the love interest, you know, in, like, chains and whatnot, like, under his lock and key. Like, I just found him way too hammy and unbelievable, and it really, like, took me out of the experience. Like, obviously, with the Terry Gilliams film, I don't mind, like, if the performances come off a little hammy, but I have a limit. And then maybe the windmill stuff isn't meant to be comedic, but seeing it over and over again doesn't necessarily have, like, the weight it should have on me as a viewer, where I'm like, oh wow, I'm getting a lot of substance out of it, because it changes meaning every time. It's like, no, just seeing it again and again and again, kind of like, okay, this is kind of feeling a little one note, like a little one trick pony. And the whole point, like the whole thing with Jonathan Pryce mistaking Don Quixote, it's like it's the same joke over and over again, because every time Adam Driver said something that he thought was blasphemous or he didn't think was something Sancho Panza would say, he would attack him. He would say, "Oh, you're under the influence of people that are putting spells on you and whatnot." It's like, again,
I mean, I don't know. I'll grant this to you. A lot of the comedy in it isn't like. First of all, not all the comedy landed for me in this film. There's some of the comedy where I'm just like it just didn't do anything for me. Either because, like he said, like maybe it was just done too many times and I just didn't find it funny. But I don't think a lot of the comedy in this movie is meant to be like laugh out loud funny. Because like a lot of the stuff that is funny in this movie, like I laughed more about later thinking about it more than at the time when it was said. Just because a lot of it is just kind of about the absurdity of characters and why it's like kind of funny and charming. And yeah, like that would be my excuse against what Perry's saying in terms of like how, the character of Don Quixote is like kind of one note because he's always like mistaken things for different things because he's like in a delusional state of mind. But I found a lot of his character charming. Like, even if it's like, yeah, he keeps like getting confused with certain things because his mind is different. I found a lot of it just, I don't know, I found it charming. Like I just really liked his character a lot. Even like, I just think it's really interesting to see a local be just completely convinced that they're a fictional character and then see just what happens from there. And the way that they also incorporated it with like the history of everything with Spain and everything, I thought that was really interesting as well. One thing that I didn't like about the film though, that I will have to say, is that a lot of the writing, in terms of character theme, it was like explaining too much of what a character is like instead of just letting the action speak for themselves. Because there was times where like Adam Driver's character would do something and then Don Quixote would come out and be like, "Oh, you're this, you're that, you can't be like this, you can't be like that, you can't be this selfish person, da, da, da." And it's like, I would really rather the film just not say those things, because you already conveyed to me what this character is like. Just let the audience decide what this character is, instead of having, and it wasn't just once, it happened a few times where there would be a character that would verbally explain what a character is, and that just kind of frustrated me. But overall though, like I really did find the adventure really fun, because I think the way that it ties Adam Driver's character together with Don Quixote's, I don't know, I found it touching and refreshing, and I at least thought it came full circle very well, and it made sense to me. I don't know, I just thought this film was really unique and creative, and I guess I found it funnier than Perry, but I found a lot of it kind of funny. Yeah. You want to say anything, Eric?
Like I said, I didn't know when I could chime in.
You can chime in whenever you want.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I viewed this film through different lens, because like what this movie was to me was that Adam Driver is like this kind of like selfish, stuck-up director who feels like he's made a masterpiece. He's like, oh, at least I got my masterpiece. He's kind of like living in the past. So when, I guess I won't try and go to a spoiler, but like this movie to me was just like Adam Driver getting himself into like these very circumstantial like shenanigans, and all he wants to do is just get out of it. All he wants to do is just like fucking go back to what he was doing, just like, but he can't. Like I just thought like that in and of itself, like Adam Driver, like I feel like his performance is what carried the movie for me. Like sure, there's some like good stuff on its own, but Adam Driver just like visibly getting frustrated and trying to like justify what the fuck is happening. And like it's kind of funny because like there's a lot of self-referential humor of him just going like, "Are you kidding me? Like who the fuck wrote this script?" Like he literally, like there's a scene where he literally just is like, "Who fucking wrote this?"
Yeah, there's some like meta moments in this movie.
Yeah.
Like there's a moment where like Adam Driver, like there's a part where they're speaking Spanish and there's like subtitles that come on, and he's just like, what the fuck is this? Get this shit out of here! And he like wipes the subtitles out of the way, and this movie kind of has that meta feel to it, even though I feel like that moment kind of came a little bit out of nowhere.
Sure.
This film does have somewhat of a self-aware feel to it, especially since the movie is about somebody making a movie called The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, or at least made a movie called The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, and it's also his passion project in the movie. It just feels like this is a very meta, kind of self-aware film that's going on. And yeah, so I don't know, like, even though like I do have issues with this film, I just thought, I don't know, like I said, I found it charming and creative and mostly funny. Yeah, the story gets a little aimless in the second act sometimes, but I think it's just supposed to be like this adventure where he just kind of goes from one place to the other, and it does get a little like artsy too with the way it presents some of the dreamlike sequences that happen.
Yeah, I know.
It does kind of go for a more artsy thing, which is not surprising for a, you know, Terry Gilliam film. And that's also one thing that I like about it, because I think more about those scenes and what it means, because I guess we will get into some spoilers later, because I do want to talk about certain things about it. But did you want to say anything else about it, or anybody, Eric or Perry?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mine will be brief, since it sounds like, you know, I was just praising the movie. I want to get my issues with it are also, I feel it was a little too long, and that the second leading into the third act did feel a little aimless. And one thing else is that I feel like there was like some like kind of tropey kind of things that I just didn't enjoy, like especially in the third act. I think like there was some stuff that I either found predictable or just like, you know, oh, like I've seen this before like a billion times. That didn't have like a little clever spin on it. It just felt like it was using those kind of things like unironically. And you know, I expect a little bit better from Terry Gilliam, but it doesn't ruin the film at all. Just like little cleanups, I think that would have made the film a lot better.
Well, like I said, I do think it's too long, and I also think it's way too exposition heavy. It's like, I get it, he's selfish, he's stuck up, Adam Driver, you know, selfish, stuck up, but it took too long into him like actually coming across Jonathan Pryce and finding out he really thinks he's Don Quixote. And I will say Jonathan Pryce did a fine job in the role, but I think how out ridiculous, you know, the idea of a person actually thinking they're Don Quixote. I wish they would have casted somebody different. Like, even though Christoph Waltz has a very heavy Austrian accent, if you're gonna go like completely ridiculous and have a character that thinks he's Don Quixote, I feel like an actor like Christoph Waltz would have been a lot more interesting to see on screen.
I mean, I personally love Pryce in this movie. I thought he did a fucking great job.
I really enjoyed his performance too.
Yeah,
personally,
I don't have any problem with the casting of him, to be honest.
I was pretty bored by watching him on screen. I guess that's just me.
I don't know. I thought he was really likable.
Sometimes he did feel genuinely annoying, but I think that was the purpose. Like, because you saw Adam Driver like genuinely be annoyed, like, oh, just go the fuck away and leave me alone.
Yeah, like I don't think like, because I think like, you know, not everything that Don Quixote does was supposed to be like funny. Like some of it is supposed to be not funny and annoying, and because, you know, the film wants you to kind of make you feel what Driver's feeling.
Yeah,
like, not just not this funny guy who's just always having these jokes. Like, no, somebody who after a while you get tired of and is pissing you off because he's just being a fucking asshole. I mean, he's not being an asshole because he's an asshole. He's being an asshole because he's just
he's delusional.
He's delusional. But
and he's treating Adam Driver like a fucking peasant.
Yeah, which was hilarious. But yeah. I guess we'll go ahead and give our ratings. I thoroughly enjoyed this film for the most part. I do have issues with it, but I think for a film that's had a lot of production issues, Terry Gilliam trying to get this film off its feet for like 30 years and get it done, I think it's certainly at least worth being proud of, because the way that it turned out I thought was pretty good. Adam Driver, I thought, gives a great performance. Jonathan Pryce is awesome as Don Quixote, in my opinion. The only thing, again, like I said, that I would fix about this film, or I think could have been done better, is maybe a little bit more structure and focus when it came to the more, I guess, when it came to the second act going into the third act. Yeah, but other than that, maybe a little bit more character depth that wasn't so one note, because I could see someone seeing Driver's character as one note. I could see someone seeing Don Quixote's character as one note. So maybe if there was just a little bit more like complexity to him, maybe it would have made it more engaging. But overall, I really praise the uniqueness of this film. I think it's really creative, and I think that it's awesome that Terry Gilliam was finally able to get this film made, regardless if nobody's probably gonna watch it. But I really enjoyed it, so I'm gonna give Don Quixote an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll go.
No.
I feel like this is my favorite performance by Adam Driver personally. I haven't seen that many movies with him in it, just like Star Wars and Silence, and he wasn't like in Silence a lot, but he was great.
Oh,
but anyways, yeah, I also agree with Carlos. I feel like the film could have used a little bit more structure, just a little bit more touch-ups, and I feel like it would have been a lot better. I don't think Adam Driver has like a full like depth to his character or anything, but I do feel like, you know, he learns a bit of shit along the way that just kind of makes him a little bit more humble. I mean, it takes a while because at first, you know, he just wants to like go back to what he's doing and just wants everybody to fuck off.
Yeah.
But, you know, I thought the first half was a lot funnier than the second half. The second half did lose me just a bit, but I still think it was a pretty good movie. I would give it a 7 out of 10.
Well, when I first saw this movie, like when I was sitting in the theater watching it, I thought I hated it more than Beach Bum. But I don't hate it as much as Beach Bum, but I still think it is a terrible movie. I think it's overlong. I think it's way too exposition heavy. Adam Driver I did really like, and I did really like how meta the film felt. But outside of that, there was not too much of this film I really enjoyed. I found a lot of the actors and the way the characters developed throughout the story, I found it very uninteresting. I will say there was a lot of like there was way too much repetition, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I fuck up all the time.
Yeah, there was just way too much repetition into this film for it to really sink the hooks into me. I'm gonna give this film a 4.3 out of 10.
That's pretty low.
Yeah.
Oh, Perry,
sorry,
why you gotta
guys.
do this to me, man?
I'm sorry, people.
I think if he was gonna review it right after he saw the movie, he'd probably give it like a 2 out of 10.
Dude, when I first saw this movie, I'm like, I hate this more than Beach Bum. I hate it more than Gummo. I hate it more than Julian and Donkey Boy. Like, I was raging all over this movie.
Gummo is a 9 out of 10.
I haven't seen Gummo. I have no opinion.
Don't watch it.
It's one of my favorite movies. I'd place it in my top 15 probably.
All right, watch it, and then come agree with me. Yeah, but I'm sorry, folks, if
that's
that
fine.
really like let you down. That's just how I feel personally.
I see where you're coming from with this film.
I mean, I can see a lot of people liking this movie. I'm obviously not one of them. But if you are a Terry Gilliam fan, I would check it out just to see like what you think of it personally. Don't treat my film reviews like scripture. I mean, they are, but they're not.
Reviews like scripture.
Yeah.
They are, but they're not.
Alright. So here's, I guess, I don't know how long we're gonna talk about spoilers, but I just wanted to talk about one thing on my mind. So I guess here's a quick spoiler section. So you've been warned. So one thing that I really liked about the film, at least in terms of how it came full circle, is that, you know, Adam Driver, because I was thinking about this a lot after I was watching it, and, you know, Adam Driver's character, you know, he goes back to Spain, and he has these, you know, dream sequences kind of thing, where he's going like back in time, and then, you know, and then back now to the present, and he's seeing things, he's not seeing things, and then you know, in the third act, he also, you know, has a love interest who he tries to save and rescue or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in the end, he also accidentally kills Don Quixote, which is really tragic.
Yeah.
And of course, like, you know, in the end, he essentially kind of becomes Don Quixote, right?
Yeah.
I just like, you know, thinking back on it now, like how a lot of the film was basically just a setup towards that, because like I feel like him going back in time and then having these dream sequences, and then also having the love interest who he has to save and get out, as him like slowly turning into Don Quixote the whole time. It's like this big transition sequence between him eventually like having the same kind of spirit of Don Quixote. And I thought that was really interesting because then once Don Quixote dies, unfortunately by his own hands, he basically just goes full on and just becomes Don Quixote himself. And I just thought that was, I don't know, like thinking back on it now, like now the film even has more meaning than I thought because it just seems really nice. And even through like Driver's Adventure, there were some really stunning shots. There was like this one shot where like Adam Driver's kind of like close to the lens, and then from far away you see this like really surreal looking castle.
Oh, I remember that. I did like that a lot.
Yeah, it just looked really nice. It looked really trippy and shit. But yeah, that's just one thing that I really enjoyed about the film, is that I feel like there was a spiritualness kind of to it as well. At least regarding Driver's character and Don Quixote. I like how the parallels kind of came together.
Yeah, that's an interesting little thing that I didn't even think about before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I also did really like the ending. Like you said, the whole, with all coming full circle and, you know, Adam Driver becoming Don Quixote. I really did dig that.
Yeah, the big scene with the giants too. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it seemed, you know, obviously it looked very kind of like special effects-ish, but it was still pretty fun to see that. And yeah, and again, that's one of the things like I really like about the movies, because it just feels really surreal.
It does.
And I enjoy that aspect of all of his films, honestly. I just like how Terry Gilliams' style and his approach to filmmaking is definitely here with this film, even if it was kind of underwhelming for some people.
Yeah.
But anybody have any other spoilers I just want to say?
My favorite joke of the movie, maybe, is fucking when he's like, "Oh, that's funny," like he's pointing at Don Quixote and just like, you know, it's nice that your friend like actually believes he's Don Quixote. And Adam Driver's like, "No, it's actually really fucking sad. He needs help."
He's really fucking sad. He needs help.
I died laughing during that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and then like, yeah, and that's kind of one thing that I liked about it too, is because like when it goes into the third act, oh yeah, that's also kind of one thing that I was thinking a lot about too, was because like when you go into the third act of the film, you know, it shows you that they're basically, you know, they're using Don Quixote's delusion in order to get a good scene, basically, or the good product that they want, basically. And you know, even as much of a shitty person as Adam Driver is throughout the movie, it shows you that he's not shitty enough to do at least what they're doing. Because even from the beginning, like, I don't even think he was even considering using him in a movie or anything.
No, he wasn't.
He actually, I think, genuinely either just wanted him to go away or actually get help. And you know, I like how the film kind of transitions you into that. Even though at first I was a little confused, I was like, what exactly is happening here? But you know, I like how it kind of does that. Like, it puts you in that kind of like, oh shit, like Don Quixote's being completely used right now, and that's pretty tragic.
Kind of at the expense of Adam Driver too, because you know, Don Quixote believes Adam Driver's a peasant, so you know, when he starts treating Adam Driver like a peasant, they're just like, oh, you know, that's what your role is here.
Yeah.
Just feed into his illusion.
That too, yeah.
And the scene where they think that he's going to space to fucking save them from a spell that gives them like fucking facial hair.
Facial hair, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous, yeah.
But it was legitimately, it was funny and sad. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is fucked.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed too, like I was first confused when I was watching it, but now that I think about it, is probably like a decent like foreshadowing moment, is that when he like seeks refuge in that one like area of Spain, I guess, where they had like that big gate or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
When he has that like dream sequence, you know how like afterwards like everybody's just looking at him and clapping, and then he wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, I remember that.
I was like, okay, what was that about? But like now thinking about it, like that was probably again like kind of trying to tell us what the movie was going to do later, in terms of like somebody being in a different state of mind and then putting on a show and then everybody clapping for you.
I see.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that either.
Yeah, like that's the way I put it together. And if you want to get into more like conspiracy-minded theory, you know, thinking, in the beginning of the movie, he's handed the script idea for the man who killed Don Quixote or whatever from some guy remember the guy at the restaurant where like a waiter comes by and he has like a whole bunch of like film script or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he grabs one, and it's the man who killed Don Quixote. That kind of makes me feel like it was all like also like a setup too, like because if you think about it, like how else would they already be prepared to do whatever they're doing to get this shot of Don Quixote at the very end of the third act? Like, it all seems like some of it was set up to be this way.
I see.
Because it's kind of like they know that Adam Driver is kind of like a talentless hack, and he's not going to give them what they want. So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's like they kind of knew some of this stuff already, because the way that it's set up felt too naturally flowing for this just to be a coincidence or an accident.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially considering how much they kept on calling him the genius, the artist.
Yeah.
It was putting a lot of emphasis on that.
Yeah, and then, when the, after Driver sees the girl at the waterfall or whatever, and then Don Quixote comes by, and then Don Quixote's like, he's doing his, like, state of mind thing where he's like, I am Don Quixote, or whatever. And the girl's like, yes, you are Don Quixote. You're the da-da-da-da. And then Driver's like, why are you talking to him like that?
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense now too, because again, like, she was in on it too, because she knows what they're gonna do with him, and all she's doing is encouraging him to be in this state of mind, so that way they can get the shot later or whatever. And everybody just wants him to keep in this delusion state of mind, except for his friends, because like you realize that his friends kind of want him to come back out of it or whatever. But I don't know. I just think this movie has cool, like, little, like, trinkets like that throughout it. Like, when you go back and think about it, like, it's like, it's like stimulating. Like, you're like, oh shit, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's all spoilers we're gonna talk about. I really got nothing else.
I don't really either.
Yeah, I got nothing.
So that's it. We probably talked way too much about this film, but I really enjoyed it. He kind of hated it.
I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. That's just how these things go sometimes. I think this is probably the biggest split we've had.
Yeah.
At least in terms of me and Perry.
Yeah, between you two, yeah.
But yeah, that's all we got to say. So if you really enjoyed what we had to say about the man who killed Don Quixote, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content. See ya.